Good afternoon and welcome to Bourbon, Bikes, and Business with Hank and Blaise. Blaise, how you doing today?
Good afternoon, Hank. How's everybody doing today?
I'm doing very well, despite my wife's mess on the desk back there that I can't even approach cleaning up at this point. So I apologize to all of our viewers for the mess. But I did get a new mic today, so hopefully everyone can hear me better.
Congratulations. That is excellent.
Now all I need is a headset so I can look like you.
Exactly. And I'll have to get you some cycling caps too.
Yeah, right. All right, so we got a couple things going on with today's show. First of all, we're going to get into what we're drinking today. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to, I talked about this on previous shows, my project with the Elves Falath Evo, and we're going to be talking about that today. I went on a nice ride on it yesterday, finally got it fixed up and finalized and out on the road, and I'll share my thoughts on the whole process with you, give it a total comprehensive review. There's pictures in this video as well that I'll be including. Before we get to that, want to tell everyone out there, we've just put out perhaps one of our best shows, I think, where we both reviewed our bourbon collections, our $150 bourbon collections. And I mean, everyone can watch it for themselves, but I think those 10 bottles there we had. Now, if you think about it this way, which we didn't even talk about, for $300, which still in the scheme of things is not that big of a deal, you could have 10 really nice bottles of bourbon and have a very nice collection, which I would think actually goes beyond what you would call a starter collection and actually a nice substantial collection at that point.
The only caveat is I wouldn't recommend testing all 10, even though I did make it home that night. Take it easy, a little at a time, maybe.
We were using shot glasses. You were using shot glasses. Some of us weren't finishing our whole tastes. Some of us were.
Right. So I enjoyed that thoroughly. That was a lot of fun.
If anyone watched the video, Blaise came over with his 5 bottles half consumed already. He couldn't wait until the testing to get into it. So, did you share with your better half when you got back to home and share the thoughts?
I did.
No,
yeah. She listened to the podcast before the video even came out.
Really?
So she said that was really, really good. I really enjoyed listening to the podcast. So
good, very good. Well, I'm glad
I let her discover it on her own.
My better half hasn't listened yet, except for the one that she was in, of course.
Right.
All right. So what are you drinking today, buddy?
I'm going with what was this? Our number 2 favorite.
Oh yeah, the 114.
There's not much left of it.
Yeah, you put a little bit of a dent in there.
I'm really enjoying this value. I'll call it the high value pour out of the 10 that we had.
Yeah.
Old Granddad 114.
Well, I'm glad you found something new. That's why you got to do this kind of stuff. You know, you find bottles you would have never thought of trying before. And like I said on the last video, I believe I've seen that bottle for as low as 19 or 20 bucks. So really, it's a nice bottle for that money.
Yeah, I talked to someone this morning who's a avid bourbon drinker, and I told him how much I enjoyed it. Told him to watch the show. And he said, would you pay like $12, $13 for that? Like, no, it was a little more. So I guess you can. I think I paid, what I say, 18 or lower 20s.
You said low to mid 20s.
Yeah, I think it was 24 maybe.
Yeah.
But
still a good deal.
What do you got cooking today?
I'm going to share something with you because I may have found a new top 5 bottle. And one of the things that I'm going to do, maybe we can even turn this into the show, but I have about just over 200 bottles of whiskey in my collection.
Is that all? I thought it was more.
So what I want to do, I can sense the sarcasm in your voice.
I know, and I won't say how many extra in your closet, so she doesn't know.
No, that includes a closet.
Right. Okay, go ahead.
So what I want to do is I want to start working my way through the entire collection on a slow basis, not all at once.
That might take several years.
And putting aside kind of my Mount Rushmore of my favorite picks of my collection and starting to categorize it that way. And I'm
interested in helping you with that. That sounds like
yeah. You can come over anytime. So this is actually, it has to be in my top 5 right now. One of my favorites is Pikesville.
We know that.
Always goes up with the Rock Hill Farms.
Mhm.
This is now in my top five, and we reviewed in our last video the 1792, but this is 1792 foolproof.
Is
And
that the one you had that we tested?
no, we
I
had the
was
regular, we
gonna
had the small batch.
okay.
This is that
Foolproof.
at 125 proof.
Now,
I
that's
found
probably
I
good.
was up in Boston this past weekend for hockey, not
Uh-huh.
shockingly.
Yeah.
And there was I always forget the name, the Total Wine. There's a Total Wine and
Mhm.
More up there. And it was one of the best Total Wine and More I've ever been to. I mean, they had so many great bourbons and whiskeys there, but I found this on the shelf for about $45.
Really?
And I've never seen the full proof down here. In
Me
fact,
neither.
after that, the following day, my son and wife wanted to stay back in the hotel for a little bit, and there was a liquor store right down the street, and I was like, I'm just gonna go check it out while you guys are resting. And
Right.
they also had one. They only had like three, and it was like $41. So I grabbed the second one as a backup because I can't find them.
Wow.
And this is like sweet and hot, and it's so good. It's right up
Wow.
my wheelhouse.
Interesting. I'm really curious to see some of that, what that's like.
So
Sounds
y-
good.
yeah, so this is the sweetness that we tasted on the 1792 when we did the budget bourbons, but with the heat of 125 proof. It
A
is
little more kick
phenomenal.
to it. That's probably good.
So there you go.
Wow.
So cheers.
Yeah, cheers. I'm doing a light sip because I'm going for a ride after this, I think. It's
Oh, good for you.
your favorite kind of day. It's not,
Y-
it's nice out, but
Yeah.
just kidding.
So yesterday I did an hour on the trainer, and then I hopped on the real bike for 2 hours and did a real road ride.
Mm-hmm.
Mix it up a little bit, and I went out to Utica Park.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you're familiar, nice kind of a
Pretty.
rolling route. And so I think I can give you a pretty good review. But before we get into the bike review,
Mhm.
how's your training going? We're about 4 weeks out.
It's good. I had my other half take me out to Williamsport, Maryland, Friday afternoon about 3, drop me, and I rode back to Point of Rocks to my house, which is about 62, 63 miles.
Okay.
It was gorgeous. So
Yeah.
that was a nice, that's I think the longest ride I've done so far, like 62,
Yeah.
63. I did early, a couple days ago, I did Sugarloaf again,
Mm-hmm.
liking that ride. I met some people that I was following on Facebook who were doing Pittsburgh to DC, and I
Oh,
rolled
really?
into the Monocacy Aqueduct. Hey, how you doing?
Oh, that's funny.
And they're gravel riders out of Lancaster. So we got an invite to go do some fun gravel rides in Lancaster this year. So we're gonna hook up with them. So it's
Yeah.
really cool.
I am game for that. What I just had a question for you. But now I can't recall. Oh, so next week I have the Tour de Frederick, so that will be my 62-mile ride
Is that next week? I saw next week already.
next Saturday.
The cutoff is May 31st. I might sign up and do it. I got
That'd
another
be great.
day. I got tomorrow's the cutoff, so
It's
I
a
got to.
great training ride.
Yeah,
And it's got your rollers, it's got hills, it's great support, great food. Grab
Pretty
a beer
ride.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
ride.
so
and it'll be
maybe
a
I'll
good
sign up
training ride.
today for that. I'll let you know if
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
So I've been pretty much for the last 3 weeks, I've been doing a 3 hour ride during the week with a about an hour and a half to 2 hour hill climbing, just repeats. So the
Cool.
other day I did Eagle Head and Woodridge repeats for an hour and a half, and then the next day I ran, and then I did the 3 hour ride yesterday, and then I'm taking a day off today and run tomorrow, and then bike ride this weekend. So I'm
Yeah.
feeling comfortable with both the hills and the distance at this point.
Yeah, my legs were burning after was the 62 or was the 3 times up Sugarloaf? I don't know
Yeah.
what it was, but
I bet.
I can only imagine doing another 30 miles on top of that. How my legs are going to feel
Well-
even more climbing.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to do at this point is go on that 3 hour ride with fatigued legs already. So I
Yeah.
get that sensation. So that's why, like,
Mhm.
Monday I did the hill climb to really kind of max out my legs, and then I didn't let them rest Tuesday. Yesterday, when I got on that 3 hour ride, even at the beginning, my legs were still feeling it.
They get broken in though after five,
Yes.
10 miles. Then you're
Yep.
not thinking about it
I
anymore.
was
So
fine. Really, I got
we'll
off the
see.
bike and I could have easily done another couple hours. I mean,
Right.
no problem. So
Yeah.
there you go.
I think the key on the trip is to enjoy it and not go like I do. You know, I'm going 20, 30 miles straight without a rest. I
Right.
think if we stop every 10 to 15, take 5 minute rest, you get back on, you feel rejuvenated a little bit. I think it'll be a lot better. Oh, we got company today.
What he?
Did he smell your fancy?
No, I had the cap on, thankfully, but he knocked the bottle over.
Anyway,
So
we always have guests on this show.
yeah, exactly. My zoo over here. So I'm kind of feeling comfortable with the distance as long as we keep it up. We got 4 more weeks, and I consider this month to be time to peak.
Yeah.
I'm glad I haven't peaked to this point, and I'm starting to feel the flow a little bit. I think.
Oh,
we'll
I
be
didn't
okay.
tell you. I got the Ortlieb quick release rack for my bike, so I have that
You got
in the
the
garage.
what?
Ortlieb, it's a rack for the back on my bike.
Oh,
So
I think I've seen that. Yeah.
yeah. So I got that. I got to play. I'm gonna put my tires on maybe this weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm debating whether I need to get that back bearing in my rear wheel repaired before we go or not. I mean, it's holding up, but
If you're gonna do it now, so you have plenty of
I
time
know.
to make sure it's good.
If I do it,
Yeah,
I'll
I
do
think
it the first week of June.
I got a new cassette and new chain. I think I'm gonna put that
I have
stuff
both
on.
those too. I bought a new
Yeah.
cassette because somebody was asking me about my setup, and I went on Performance Bikes and I bought another one. It was like 50, 60, $70. I don't know. And I bought a chain. So I'm debating whether to put that all on or wait till after.
I'm gonna
the
put
trip.
it on either this week or next week. So
Yeah.
I have a few weeks of riding with the stuff to make sure everything's good. I'm gonna basically break down the bike, re-grease it, rebuild it, and then give it a month of riding to make sure everything's good and we're
I
fresh.
think my pads are good, but I noticed my front right brake is almost to the bar. So I hope I don't have to have something major. It might just the cable might be stretched. I got a feeling.
Yeah. I'm
And
gonna
the
put new pads
shifting's
in
off
anyway.
a little bit, so I might need new cables. So I'll probably have them look at that too.
I mean, we've both been riding through some really nasty weather the
Yeah,
last few
rain,
months, so it wouldn't
crap.
surprise me at all if the brake pads were worn. I got an extra set to pop on there, so
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do.
So let's
All
jump
right.
into the bike. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? Your
So
bike.
here we go.
I'm anxious to hear about this.
So I've mentioned this on the show before. I haven't shown a picture yet, but I have a nice picture and video. The bike is called, and there's a few different models of these, but it's the UCI approved Elves Falath Evo Carbon Road Disc frame set. Okay, these all come in a frame set.
Oh, hold on. Time
It's-
out. Did you say you got discs on a road bike?
I know. I really hate it. I was fighting it, but here's the thing. They have a couple different models, and they still have the rim brake model, and that's the one I was going to pull the trigger on. Except, and you'll see it when I show the pictures, the rim brake model has the older style like headset coming up above the frame with handlebar, whereas the disc version has the headset almost
Integrated
even
more,
with
yeah.
the top tube, and it gives it a real nasty aero aggressive look. And I was like, for me it's almost like more of a show bike anyway, because I got it in
Right.
my business's name and my business's color and everything. And I'll ride it in the Tour de Frederick because it's a marketing kind of thing.
Oh, I was just gonna ask you. Are you gonna do your gravel bike or your road bike for that?
No, I'm doing the road bike.
You'll
I'm
be
not
way
fooling
out
it.
ahead of me on my salsa.
But so it's as much marketing as it is anything else, because I already have another road bike. I have a Canyon road bike and everything else. But I'll get into the pricing of it and everything.
What you just said is interesting because the guy. Remember, I said I ran into the guy who doing the CNO this week, and he goes, "I know you by your bike. Isn't it funny how you know people by their bike versus
Yeah.
their name?" Some people
Yeah.
remember a bike before they'll remember your name or what you look like or whatever.
Well, it's funny too, because when I started my business, one of the first things that I did was I got a whole cycling kit branded
Yeah, I remember
with
that,
my
right.
business's name on it and everything. And I've actually, through the Tour de Frederick ride and some other rides, I was recognized by former clients or potential clients, and I've gotten business just by wearing that gear.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
it works. It's branding out there. So
yeah.
okay, so The model is the Elves Falath Evo Carbon Road Disc. It is a disc road bike, which I dislike, but I'm going with it. I'm riding the times, and my other one, my Canyon, is a rim disc. So
Going to be a convert by the end.
yeah, no. So what? So I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna break this down into a few different categories that I have in front of me here. We're gonna talk about kind of the basic frame and the sizing, the ordering process, the shipping, what you get with it, the paint job, the build,
Jeez.
the ride, and overall what I thought.
Can
Okay,
I fit that all in 15 minutes? All right, this will be good.
15. I thought I had like 42. Come on. All right. So the frame that I got, they have the first thing when you watch some YouTube videos on it, pretty much everyone agrees buy a frame size up. And you know me,
Right.
I like a smaller frame. I like to
Down.
feel like
Yeah.
but I followed the advice and got a frame size up, and I'm glad I
Really?
did, because the first thing I noticed on the test ride was even with the size up, I had toe overlap. So if there's
It might something to do with the Asian thing. If you think about,
Yep.
I think Moton Asian jerseys, I had it size up like 3 sizes.
It is.
It must be
That's-
a little over there or something.
That's what it
I don't
is.
know.
Yep. And so even though it's technically a size 54, which I usually try to stay at 52, 53, the 54, it fits well, but there is toe overlap. So take that into mind. When you're going and you're picking out your color, and all this is done, it's a very easy ordering process that I'll talk about in a minute. But you'll go to elvesbike.com, ELVES bike.com, and that's where and there's different stores for each country. So you'll go to the US store if you're here,
Right.
and you'll pick out your frame. Now, you have a couple different choices. You can get this thing custom painted for $50, which I thought was very
insane.
reasonable. Or they have some really nice, already pre-selected like color patterns, and they're really cool. I decided, like I said, to get it in my business's colors, which is red and black, and I got it custom painted in this chameleon holographic red and black. So depending
that's
on
insane for $50. If you think about
Yeah.
some other brands out there, big brands probably charge 5 times that.
Yeah.
For a custom
So-
paint job.
So as the sun sits on it, as you're shifting around, it changes from red to black. In fact, the other day I was looking at it, it was purple at one point. So it's really cool. It's this holographic custom paint. And then what I had them do was put my law firm logo on the inside of the forks and on the seat stays. And it's really cool. So it's a Henry Martin Law bike with Henry Martin Law in
That's
subtle,
cool.
like matte black in different places.
Very neat.
And it's a really cool look, and they were really good to order to
Yeah,
work
you said
with on
they
that.
called you up to verify the paint specs
I'm
and
gonna
stuff,
get
and they were
into that
really
in a
easy
second,
to.
but
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
So ordering this bike, again, you go to elvesbike.com and you place your order. The price is about $1,100. If you get the aero
Steal.
bar that is specifically made to work with it,
Right.
it is an additional charge, but they give you a discount if you order both at the same time. So it's about $1,200 for both the carbon aero bar and this carbon aero frame. You add $50 for the custom paint. It ended up being about $1,300 for this beautiful custom aero bike with seat post fork and aero handlebar.
I mean,
Okay.
for a beginner bike, even somebody getting into road riding, that's like
Yeah.
so reasonable compared to
With a custom paint job.
yeah, right.
And almost anything you want to do. There are all types of YouTube videos out there with people who put their own like numbers and logos and colors.
Right.
And, they'll work with you on more or less whatever you want. So the communication, like you just mentioned, was incredible. So on the website, I put in my order, I put in my purchasing information, and within 24 hours, I got an email from, there's a U.S. distributor or U.S. liaison who got in touch with me and reviewed my order with me, asked me what kind of the custom paint I wanted, how I wanted it to look. And that in itself was a process, because I told them initially what I wanted. They came back to me with a draft design showing side and top and everything of the bike. And I made some tweaks from there, and they made those tweaks, and then they sent it back to me, and I made a few more tweaks, and then they finalized, and before they did anything, we got a perfect finalized version. Okay, it was probably three or four
what
emails
all
going back and
comes
forth.
with this total price you mentioned? You're not
I'm
getting
gonna
wheels with
I'm gonna
that,
get into
right?
it in a
Okay,
second.
all right, yeah.
All right.
Jumping ahead as usual.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, so excellent communication. Made sure that my order was just right. Always very, very nice about it and very customer service oriented. The shipping, once we confirmed the order, the shipping was prompt. I can't remember how fast it got to me, but I want to say it was within 5 days. It was pretty quick. I wouldn't say it was immediate overnight, but it was certainly prompt, and I wasn't waiting around for weeks or months or anything like
Less than
that.
2 weeks. That's pretty good.
The packaging was incredible. I mean, it probably took me a half an hour to unpackage the bike. So much wrapping and everything. Exterior packaging was in perfect shape. The interior packaging and the bike was in perfect shape.
Did they ship you a
Excellent.
DHL? Is that what they shipped it? I'm not sure.
Can't remember. I mean, it was like a FedEx or a DHL or one of the major shipping
Mm-hmm.
companies. But so that was all great. So you open the box and what do you get with this thing? This is one of the most impressive things. I figured, well, they're going to try to skimp somewhere, right? Save money somewhere. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to hunt around for all these little itty bitsy pieces. No, they included everything. So you get your arrow frame, you get the fork, and I'm going to mention you can go onto the website to see the actual tire clearances. But you saw the bike. I mean, the tire clearance is huge.
That's what I thought for a road bike, an aero road bike. So you could go, what, 32 or more?
Yes. I think you can go 40s. Which would look weird,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
I put on 30s just to fill up some of the frame. I don't want to ride on the road on more than that.
30s are almost standard these days, really. I mean,
yeah. My understanding, though,
30.
is that some people have actually used this frame as an aero gravel bike and will put chunky gravel wheels in there or tires. And the frame clearance is huge. So you get your aero frame, you get a carbon aero seat post, which is proprietary shaped. You get your carbon aero fork. You get a bottom bracket with ceramic bearings, which was incredible. Now, I don't know how great those ceramic bearings are. I'm not a bearing expert, but all right, for included price, great. You get the headset with the aero spacers that perfectly matches the aero bar, so everything is a nice look. You get the through axles. You get all the little parts for the Di2 and the ETAP and everything. All the different
this is electronic too.
You can do anything you want with it.
But you got electronic, right?
I mean, it's a frame that fits everything.
But you have electronic shifting?
No, I have cable on there.
Okay, you got cable. All right.
So there were even parts in there for Di2 that I don't use Di2, so I didn't even recognize them. I had to email the guy and say, like, what the heck is this part? So for the battery, you know how it goes up into the fork? They give you a thing for the battery.
So you can convert it to electronic shifting if you want later?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
So all the different cable stops and plugs and everything. And they even give you 2 sizes of saddle clamps. So if you have a larger carbon rail saddle, which I do, you have a clamp for that. Or if you have the typical just like titanium or whatever it is, smaller rail, they give you that. They give you grip tape for the seat post, so there's no slippage in the seat post. I mean, they've thought of everything and have included it in this package.
The 2 things I was impressed when I took a glance at it was the integration of that seat post into the frame and the handlebar, aero bars, that smooth transition of the bars to the frame as well.
Yeah.
Very sleek looking.
It's beautifully done. So I'm going to comment on the paint now. Paint was excellent. You saw it. It's beautiful. I found no imperfections. I would consider a professional paint job. Custom work was incredible and better than I expected. I mentioned on another show, they got to me and they said, where you want your decals and how long they are, it's actually going to interfere with the cable housing for the disc brake in the front fork where it pops out. Is that okay? And I said, I get it. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, there's nothing you can do about where the hose hole is. They found a way to work around it. When I received the bike, it did not run over or run through that hole. I mean, even to that level. What were your thoughts on the paint job? You saw it. Although you saw it in the garage.
It reminded me of my first bike I ever had when I was, I don't know how old. It was candy apple red, metallic candy apple red. And this is like a whole nother version of that, but it is just, for the money, I was like shocked. I was like,
Yeah,
wow, that's
yeah,
amazing. I mean,
yeah,
I've never even seen a stock bike that looked that pretty as far as paint goes.
yeah,
It's just incredible for the
yeah,
money.
yeah. I'm really happy with the paint job. Now,
Yeah.
let's get into the build because these come
Yeah.
as frames. These don't come as complete bikes. So anyone who's going to get
That's
this,
what
either
I
you
thought.
have to take it to a bike store to have built up, or you got to do
Hmm.
it yourself.
Okay.
I build up all my bikes, so I'm used to it.
Hmm.
I would consider myself a pretty high level of ability in terms of bike building. I've built probably 20 or
Yeah,
so
me
bikes
too.
at this point.
Yeah, I'm an expert on that.
No, I'm not giving you my bike. So I would say, even with that, this was the hardest portion of this whole thing. So the most 80% of it was really easy and quick, which is always trouble. You know, when it's easy and quick, that something's going to pop up. There were two issues with the bike, and I don't even know if it's the bike itself.
Hmm.
Did you just see the balloons come up?
What was that?
I don't know. I'm going to try to do that again. I don't know what happened there. Um,
We hit a milestone.
yeah, I guess so. So the bottom bracket for the bike is a PF30, which is a little outdated for road bikes, and in fact, they use it mostly with mountain bikes.
All right.
But for whatever reason, they used the PF30, probably because it was the standard mold that they used.
Hmm.
So fitting it to a road crank is a little funky. And sure enough, I played around with the bottom bracket, and my crank was an I forget it was a BB30, but there are actually two versions of BB30. There's like the
Hmm.
shorter version and the longer version. And my crank that I was going to use was a shorter version, and because the seat stays pop out so much because of the wide clearance, there wasn't enough clearance for the chainring. So then I got in a pickle what I was going to do about all of that. I ended up having to get a new crank, which wasn't that big of a deal. But I got a new crank to fit it to get extended out enough to get past the seat stay. That was one issue I had. The other issue I had was, and this is probably common with modern bikes where all the cabling goes through the headset and is totally hidden coming out of the handlebar. Funneling that stuff through the frame is already hard enough, but when
Right.
you have to, one, put it through the handlebar and then put it through the headset to go down, the turns are like this.
Yeah. Right.
So if you're using cabling, it tends to not crimp necessarily, but cause friction for the
Would you
cable.
put like grease on the cable to get it through
Yeah,
there?
you do
Yeah.
that, but there's still such
That's
steep
annoying.
bends
Right.
that my concern was the shifting wasn't going to be great and the braking wasn't going to be great because you get a lot of
Right.
friction. Now I took it out yesterday, and those were kind of my first two issues. So the braking was fine, but I noticed after I broke enough, the cabling finally kind of worked through, got past that
It's gonna
friction,
loosen up
and
a
then
little
I
bit.
had a little bit of slack, and so I'll just
Yeah,
have
you
to tighten
adjust it.
that up.
Yep. Yeah.
The shifting, the shifting, I'm going to chalk up more to the SRAM red that I was using because the front chainring is always finicky on the SRAM red 11, which is what I used. And
Right.
so I don't think the friction in the cabling helped any, but I'm going to chalk that more up to the SRAM red.
Is it a compound crank that you got? Is that what it is?
I don't remember.
No, I mean the front crank. Is it two
I don't
or
remember
one
what the
by?
rings are. Oh no, it's two.
It's two. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was an easy fix. I stopped at the park where before I turned around to go head home, where I get the snack, and just kind of tinkered with the limit stops on the front derailleur, and I was fine going home.
Right.
The only other issue was going out. I had it was kind of comical. My seat post slipped, and about halfway out, I was riding like it was a kid's bike, like all the way down, which was kind of funny. But it was my fault. The night before, I had done the final adjustment on the seat post, and I didn't tighten it up all the way to spec. And so I'm not going to put that on the bike. I'm going to put that on me. I didn't. And again, when I was out, when I stopped halfway before I headed home, I tightened it up. Everything was fine the whole way back home. So just a couple of hiccups, but everything was fine other than that.
What wheels do you have on this thing?
My Chinese carbon 40 millimeter wheels.
Okay.
They were good, and
Yeah.
GP 5000 tires, which are nice.
Yep.
So, all in all, that was kind of the build. A few hiccups, which you're going to have with any build,
Right.
but for the most part, it was fine. Now, the ride, which is kind of the most important part.
Yeah, I was just thinking in my head, how would you compare this to your previous aero? You had the Cervelo, which was a beautiful bike. You had the 3T, which is more gravel road. And what other? You've had other bikes in the past, I know too.
Yes, so many, but for these purposes, I really kind of thought of the Cervelo S5 that I had. That's the most
Really?
comparable. So when I got on it, the first thing that you notice is it's incredibly stiff. Remember how I used to talk about the Cervelo as how stiff it was?
Like my
Which is
Venge
great
was
for.
very stiff too. Yeah.
Was that your what?
My Venge was
Yes.
very stiff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a typical aero race road bike.
Fast. Likes to go fast.
It's
Yep.
great for power transfer, but it's not like riding on in a Cadillac,
No.
So
Yeah.
it's very stiff.
Yeah.
It is aero. I noticed the second I got to about 22 miles per hour, it felt like I was just on rails, just woof, just zooming down the road. No effort whatsoever. Just
Nice.
the route I was on was about a 12 and a half mile out and a 12 and a half mile back. So I did 25 miles on it. And you've been on the course. It's kind of rollers the whole way out. There's some steep hills initially, and then it's rollers the whole way out through farm country. I would say certainly on the flats and the slighter heavy downhills, this bike just excelled. On the uphills, it's not a climbing bike. Like if you're buying this thing for a climbing bike, you're all wrong. You're in the wrong.
It's hard to get
neighborhood.
the best of everything in an aero bike.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tricky. Yeah.
You're committing when you get a super aggressive aero bike. I will say I don't feel like it held me back.
Right.
I just don't feel like certainly it was its strength.
You said you had it set up pretty aggressively in the bars and everything.
For sure. And so I compared it to the last ride I did on the same course with my Canyon climbing bike, which is I forget, CLF. It's certainly more of a climbing bike. And even with having lost my seat post height for half the ride out, and even with the fact that it's an aero, not climbing bike, I was still a couple minutes faster on the exact same route on this bike. So I consider that a win. What else did I want to mention?
Comfort, you said, is so-so, the comfort?
I wouldn't want to ride it all day. It's not a touring bike. I wouldn't ride it for 5 hours.
But for the 20, 30, 40, 50-mile ride, no problem at all, right?
I mean, I did 2 hours on it yesterday. I was perfectly fine. I never felt like I wanted to get off it and give my ass a rest. It did come to my mind a couple times and like, well, I'm going to shift around. If you would get a
comfortable saddle, you could probably ride farther, but I
like my saddle. Yeah, my saddle's good. The other thing that I wanted to mention, what was the final thing that I wanted to mention? You broke my train of thought, Blaise.
I know.
So the whole thing is made up of SRAM Red 11, which is what I had laying around. I think to get away from the finicky shifting, and because I have a ETAP 12 set that more or less is laying around. It's kind of on my gravel bike, but it's being wasted by the gravel bike right now. And I have gravel specific axis that's waiting to go on that. So I think I'm going to put the SRAM Red ETAP 12 on this bike to get away from the shifting finickiness, and then put the other stuff on.
You have to change the crank then again on it?
No, that will be fine. So that's one thing that I think I'm going to do. But as I was riding, what it did conjure up in my mind was comparisons to the Cervelo S5. I don't think
that's pretty good.
It had a very similar ride to the S5. I don't think I'll ever get as fast as I did on that S5. That S5 just cooked.
That's like my Venge too. It's just so much faster than a tarmac that I had before. It just likes to go fast,
Yeah.
Now, I'll say that the Venge used to climb fairly well. I did a lot of climbs. I did Hamburg Road with that several times. I hated it, but
Yeah.
so
And the S5, I think it was the same kind of thing. It didn't hold me back necessarily, but it wasn't meant for the climbs.
Right.
But so
overall,
overall,
good.
my impression on a 10 scale, I'd give it probably like a 9.2.
Wow.
And maybe higher considering for the money. For $1,300 in and threw some spare parts on there. Really pleased. Custom painted carbon aero aggressive road bike with aero handlebar, all internally cable routed, totally hidden cables. For $1,300.
See,
It's a
now
win for me.
I looked at the site after you got it. I wish they had something like a Crux, because I would look at buying one, you know, to do the gravel and road, something more of a hybrid.
Like I say, I think several people use this thing as a gravel bike. So you could probably put up to like 40s. You're not going to get like your salsa tires on there, like 55s or whatever you have. But you could get gravel appropriate tires in there.
Right.
And ride it.
Yeah.
So
cool.
So those are my thoughts. I've shown video and so forth in the. I'm going to insert it in this video when I produce it, so everyone can see. And I think I'm gonna ride it for Tour de Frederick. So
I won't be able to keep up with you on my salsa because I'll have 44s on.
Yeah, that's gonna be a little rough.
So I think next show, if I can line this up, I've talked to him, my buddy Jimmy, down in the deep South. Who I used to ride with when he was in Maryland. He moved to South Carolina. Now he's in Florida. He called me up last week and said, hey, can you help me find a new gravel bike? So I thought that might be a good interview with Jimmy, talking about where to go look, what are good bargains, what are top brands for a gravel bike. So he agreed to do the show. His computer is being worked on. So if I can get it in by the next week, I'll have that recorded. If not, it'll be somewhere down the road. So that's what we're going to do.
Okay. That sounds good.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, thank you everyone for joining us today. If you can, please like, share, subscribe, help grow the channel. Hope you are enjoying the content we're providing. If you're not, leave us a comment. If you are, leave us a comment. Tell us what you'd like to see. Tell us what we should be doing better.
Great.
All right. Until next week, Blaise. I'll see you later. See everyone later.
See you later.
Peace out.
Bye.